Like my face was clenching up. My whole body was like tense. Like I couldn't, my hands, it was so weird. I don't know if anyone's ever had a seizure before, but it was like your hands like clench up and you can't move them. And it feels like you're gonna like break your hand.
Alrighty, welcome to the channel. Hi, we're gonna be doing something new. So we're on my second channel. If you don't know, hi, my name's John, or Obese to Beast. I used to be about 400 pounds. I lost a lot of weight. Depending on how lazy I decide to be with the editing of this video, I might put a photo up somewhere on the screen. But we are recording this live over on Twitch, so feel free to come join us. It's a lot of fun. But we're going to be talking about a video that had popped up, and I thought that it was interesting, and it's something that we talk about a lot here on the channel, which is Ozempic GLP-1 medications and the implications that those have with the public, as well as just that conversation at large. I think it's an interesting conversation. And so the video that we're going to be talking about is this one right here from Dream On with Lottie Moss. So this is actually Kate Moss's younger sister, and she had basically she OD'd on Ozempic, which is what she says, right? And so we're going to be talking about this. This is going to be a true reaction. I have not seen this video yet, but we're going to see what Lottie has to say about it. And so this is coming from her podcast, which I think this is only episode 5. So it's a relatively new podcast that we're going to be talking about. Alrighty. We're going to skip ahead 2 minutes because I was told that she's just kind of talking about her boyfriend the first little bit. And so we'll just skip to like 3 minutes in, and we'll kind of just see what she has to say. And yeah, let's do this.
Is always traveling, which is so fun because then I get to go with him. And I get to be the little DJ girlfriend in the booth, just like, dancing, living my life. I get to wear slutty little hot outfits. Okay. It's so fun. I love it. So today I really wanted to talk about something that I think is so relevant right now.
All right, let's do it.
And I think it's really important to talk about as well, because we kind of set these body standards and these beauty standards, and they have been set for obviously years, but it's so interesting how they change and how quickly they change depending on like who is current, who's just like a celebrity that's popping off at the time, kind of what celebrities are setting. I feel like they set the standards for most people, to be completely honest. Like,
yeah, I agree. I think that one thing that I have, and the thing is that this especially affects women, which we end up talking about that a lot on the main channel, but this ends up affecting women a lot more than men, I think. And one of the biggest changes, right, that I've seen, I remember when I was younger, your boy is 31, okay, right? So get all your old man memes out of the way, right? So I've been around the block for a little bit, right? And when I was younger, I remember it was being as thin as possible, right? And it was like, they used to talk about how like Britney Spears is overweight, or like Jessica Simpson, and looking back, you're like, bro, they looked fine. They looked fine, but they just didn't look malnourished, right? But that was what everyone wanted, and it was like the low-rise cut jeans, but now it's different, right? But it does seem like we're kind of reverting back to those things, and so I do think that this is a good conversation to have, right?
For me, when I'm looking online, that's probably when I feel worst about myself, and I see all of these celebrities that look incredible and so perfect, but obviously, we have to remember that they have a whole team behind them of personal trainers, of nutritionists, of all these people that just helping them, surgeons, people helping them look that good.
And editing, right? That's a gigantic part, especially if you're comparing yourself to like people that are on the cover of magazines. Like tons of editing is happening as well, right? And then obviously Instagram and social media.
I think my first sort of, I would say, run-in with sort of my body image was when I was, to be fair, a lot older, I think, than most people. I think I speak to some of my friends and they talk about how they didn't like their body or they wanted to be skinny when they were super young. For me, I was always quite fortunate that I was always quite slim. My parents always fed me very healthy foods and things like that. So when I was younger, it kind of was quite easy for me to feel quite good about myself. My parents never, and I used to always get so angry with them about this, they would never pack me anything like sugary or sweet, like any chocolates or anything in my packed lunch. And so I'd trade people. I'd be there with my hummus and my carrot sticks trying to trade it out. I was like, please, someone swap with me. Like, I literally was like, why can't I just have something normal? I was having smoked salmon for my breakfast and my lunch, like every single day. Like, obviously, I loved.
So clearly, I think one thing that's should be brought up, right, is like the economic situation that people are in, right? That plays a huge role, I think. Like having smoked salmon as a child for lunch is not something that I would have had. I would have had maybe a Lunchable if I was lucky, probably a peanut butter jelly sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Or get free lunch from the school, which is what I normally did because your boy, you got that low income. There are some perks to it, right? But there's definitely, I think that's definitely something that should be brought up, right? Is like the socioeconomic class of the person, especially when you're younger, because there's obviously nothing you can do about it, right? You can't just like go to work and make more money, right? Because you're literally a child. You don't have that option, right?
Smoked salmon. So it was fine, but it was just not the vibes when I was like 5 years old and I was going into school and everyone else had like fruit winders and crisps and chocolate, like penguin bars. Oh, penguin bars.
I'm just like, oh, dang, man. Really? You packed me caviar again for lunch, Mom? This is unbelievable. I cannot stand for this.
My life. And I just sat there with my healthy foods. It was so annoying. But you know what? I'm really thankful that they did do that. And, any sort of unhealthy foods were always a treat for me. So it made me have quite a healthy relationship with food. My mum and dad never restricted me. They never
Yeah, Rachel, everyone wants what they can't have. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is a good, exactly though. That's so true because it's like, for me, it's like you want the fruit roll up and I don't know if I'd want salmon. I'm not much of a fish person, but if you had like a solid lunch, some tri-tip or something, I'd be like, you could take my fruit roll up, brother. Bring it over. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you could say they did with the hummus and the carrot sticks, but not badly, they didn't do it badly. But yeah, I think my body image issues definitely started when I started doing modeling. And I think that was probably when I first sort of noticed that things were different with my body than they were with other girls. I think I'd grown up where it wasn't really anything that we spoke about, to be honest. It's weird. No girls that I really, had as friends, they didn't really have any eating disorders or anything as far as I knew, which is so strange because as I've grown up.
And that's a really big part of it, right? As far as I knew, because they certainly could have, and you just didn't know, right? And that's one of the biggest things, especially if you're into modeling and stuff. I think that it would be, I think if you were able to talk to a lot of them, they would have said, yo, yeah, back then I was really struggling, right? I think being that rail thin, it's one of those things where it's of course, with any body type, there are people that naturally are going to be that body type, right? Being rail thin, being a little bit bigger, being a little bit more muscular. There are people that kind of fit into those roles, and that's just more quote unquote natural for them, easier for them to be in. But when that becomes the ideal, the issue is, I think, that everyone that doesn't fit into that body type will do almost anything to fit into that body type, right? And so whatever that might be, whether it's EDs, Ozempic, eating a ton of food, trying to gain muscle, right? I'm not saying only just being thin, right? Putting on muscle, doing things that help you build muscle, if you know what I mean. All of those things are detrimental to those people that maybe their body doesn't want to be in that position, right? And so that's where the issues kind of come about, right?
So many of my friends have had problems with eating or eating disorders. But when I was at school, it never really was apparent to me, which is so unusual. I'm sure there were girls that I knew that definitely had eating disorders or had problems with their body, and things like that. But I just never really was aware of it. And
they probably just didn't know either, right? They're kids, right? So if we're talking about school, it's they probably just didn't realize that what they were doing was disordered as well. It's very common.
Yeah, as I got into modeling and moved to London and stuff, it became so much more apparent. I think because you're going out and you're around boys and you're wanting to just dress up and look good, I think it becomes much more of you start looking at how everybody else looks in the same outfit as you, or if you're sharing clothes with your friends and it doesn't fit and you're oh my God, that is the worst feeling ever.
I learned very young. I ain't sharing clothes with you, big dog. All right, it ain't gonna happen. I'm gonna rip that shirt. You know what I'm saying?
And when I first started modeling when I was 18, I'd been modeling for a couple of years, but nothing serious. But when I seriously started modeling, when I moved to London, I had been given a personal trainer. It was one of the first things that happened to me. I got given a personal trainer. And I still love him to this day. We still train together. He's incredible. And the problem with it was that I didn't even realize I needed one. And I don't think I did at that age. But he was so restricting with some foods for like periods of time. And then I would binge when I was allowed to eat. It was like, you know, I'd have fashion week to get ready for. So it would be, 23-inch waist, 32 around the hips. So then I'd get myself down to that size by only eating like 1 carb a day, which was literally a small piece of toast. Everything else was just like rice.
So when she says 1 carb a day, I'm assuming she doesn't mean 1 gram of carbs, because I mean, you'd get you'd be able to lick the bread, I guess, and then you're good to go. I'm assuming it's just like 1 item of food that is mainly carbs, is what I'm assuming. But this is super common, not just in modeling, but it's common in like the bodybuilding space as well, right? Like a lot of people, they diet down to get ready for a show, and then there's what's called the rebound, where you end up gaining 20, 30, 40 pounds, like not long after the show, right? It can be really detrimental and can be really, really hard to deal with. But this is why I am such a proponent of finding a diet that is sustainable long-term, that is not cutting everything out of your diet and just not eating anything, and then eventually kind of going back to, it's just like, because those things are made to be super restrictive, and it's like, usually most people are like, they're not expecting to stick to that forever, right? But it's just not, it's not feasible. And so, yeah, this is super common in so many different areas, right? And modeling, I think, is probably one of the more extremes, as well as like bodybuilding, because both of those, you're showing everything, if you know what I'm saying. Especially with bodybuilding, you're literally in a leotard, basically. But
salmon, chicken, like eggs, like really, really healthy, no sweets, nothing. And then when I would be, fashion week would be done, which most of the time I didn't get any shows anyway. So I was like, great, got down to this weight for no reason. And so when I would stop and I'd come back home from fashion week, I would literally binge the life out of everything. Like I would eat so much food. I was eating like pizzas and everything. At one time, I remember I come back from fashion week. I was like, right, I can just like binge now. I can eat whatever I want. And then I got a call up to do Victoria's Secret casting, not for the show, for a campaign. And I was like, oh my God, I have not been looking at what I'm eating. And I just remember feeling so bad about myself going to it, even though I was probably a lot slimmer than I am now. It made me develop such bad like habits with food, where I like wouldn't eat for a bit and then I would eat loads.
And then a big part of it is like you get used to seeing yourself at that extreme level of leanness, that it messes with your head, because you think to yourself, I should always look like that, right? That's how I should always look. And it's really hard to realize like, hey, no, you shouldn't always look like that, It's like, that's not healthy being at that weight. But it's so hard to think that way when you're going through it.
Because I would be like so starved. And one thing about me is like, I love food. I would rather eat a piece of cake and like feel like happy that I got to eat that than walk past it and not get it. Because I'll be thinking about that for the rest of the day. Like I love food. I'll always get like a nice thing on the menu. I can't be sitting there with the Caesar salad picking it like a rabbit. I need to like have nice food. It's just always been me. And I think I'm very lucky that I have that relationship with food where I do love food. But I have gotten to a point, I would say probably my biggest weight, and it actually made me so insecure. But during COVID, and I feel like a lot of people can relate with this, is during COVID, obviously there was nothing to do, just sat at home doing absolutely nothing, watching Netflix, like Tiger King, it was big. Do you know what I mean? We weren't doing anything. So all I was doing was eating, going for my one measly walk a day. And because none of the gyms were open, it was so difficult to get out there and do exercise. And it was so easy to just sit in and eat. And when I tell you, I gained so much weight, it's the heaviest I've ever been. And
it's interesting because actually during COVID, I actually got incredibly lean. And I think it's because it's like the difference in people. Like for me, I genuinely enjoy like working out and like being active. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything else to do, so I might as well. Like I was working out twice a day. I was going on pretty long walks because it was like the only thing you could really do, right? Because everything was closed. And I actually look back at those photos, I was like, damn, I was actually like really lean at that time, which I'm not saying is good or bad. It's just the difference, right? In some people got leaner, some people got bigger. It's very interesting.
Look back at pictures of it, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even recognize myself. And that is a weight that to this day, I have struggled to lose. It's like, I honestly don't even know how much it was, but it was definitely over a stone. Like, must have been at least 2 stone. Like, it was so bad.
So for those of you that don't speak British, a stone is 14 pounds, I'm almost positive. And so 2 stones is, 28 pounds, around 30 pounds maybe.
I was eating Oreos, a pack of Oreos every single day. And my niece, who I was staying with at the time, she was baking banana bread. And every single day I was just demolishing that banana bread. Like, it was so problematic, but I just didn't care. And I thought, you know what? We might be here for years. We might not be allowed out of the house for years. Like, I'm just going to get fat and it's just not going to matter. And then a few months go by and suddenly they're like, right, everyone just go back into society. And I was like, I am not ready for this. I think also after that, my mental health really deteriorated. And that's another thing with weight. I think like if you're not feeling good mentally, your eating habits become really bad. And mentally for me after that, like I was just not happy. I was kind of lost and my eating habits were just fluctuating. Like I was.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people can had very similar experiences around COVID times. I really don't like to talk about it. I don't like to talk about that year at all, to be honest.
I got really slim after lockdown, then I put on all the weight again and I got really slim and then it's always been like that for me. And it's just annoying, honestly. Like I have so many friends that are models and are so thin and I'm just like, oh, I wish I could be you. But then I do love my body. And it's so important to remember that like everyone's different. Everyone has a different body type. I think when I was modeling, I was more strict on myself to be really, really slim because I didn't have the height as an advantage. So I was like, right, if I'm going to be small, I need to at least be really skinny. But I know that's not my body type. Like I have a big bum, I've got boobs. I just need to embrace that. Even to this day, I need to
Same here, dude.
remind myself to just embrace it. Like I'm a little bit of a curvy girl and I love it. Do you know what I mean? I like having a bum and I like having my boobs and it's me. And I think that's a really important message to just remember, like, whatever you look like, just embrace it, like get into it. And there's so many different clothes that you can wear now that just like suit your body type. Every body type is like catered for now. This is actually such a funny.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I think to an extent, right? That's true. I think embracing where you are, but again, at the end of the day, right? Your body is a manifestation of where you are mentally and physically. And so like, if it's too one side or the other of the spectrum, that's usually a sign of like something isn't going right. Like she said for herself, right? When she was really thin, it was not good. It wasn't healthy for her, right? And so I think that is true. And then the opposite, right? Being too big. But I think for the majority of people, this message I don't think is harmful, right? Being like proud of where you are, not trying too hard to do things that are too drastic, that are too extreme to change how your body looks, I think is a good message, right? I think that's a good message to send out.
Story. So I used to get shamed for, and it's not even like, I feel like I'm gonna cry. I used to get shamed because I used to always eat ham and cheese sandwiches. Oh my God, I'm actually crying. And I don't, like, it sounds funny when
I still eat those. I don't know. Am I supposed to be embarrassed? I usually do turkey, I guess, but okay.
I say it out loud, but like it actually was really mean. Like I still to this day love a ham and cheese sandwich. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had one this morning, period. And I I used to go in every time I went into my agency. I was normally like eating one because I would have just gone to the shop or something. And I remember I had an agent that actually shamed me for eating. She's like, "Well, here she goes again with the ham and cheese sandwich." And I was like, "Okay, like, what did the ham and cheese sandwich do to you?" Like,
for real,
it's honestly is so wild because I see so many like. I know the point of it was that they wanted me to be slim, but I have so many like really slim friends that eat so unhealthily and stay really, really slim. So I mean,
so that's one of the. Oh man, when I hear that, I understand where people are coming from, and I used to say like the same thing. But the thing, like, you have to understand, no matter. Unless you're like literally with the person 24/7, you do not know what they're doing on a daily basis, right? And so you might see that that meal they have with you, they're eating whatever they want, but you don't know how much they're eating outside of that meal. You don't know how much they're moving throughout a day, whether that's exercise or just in general, walking from here to there and trying to go out. There's a lot more to someone like. There's always that people always bring up that argument like, oh, I have a friend that eats whatever they want and they didn't gain any weight, but I look at some French fries and I gained 10 pounds, right? I understand that feeling that way because I used to literally say that exact line, right? I used to say that exact thing, but you just never know exactly what someone is doing to maintain their weight or whatever. Right. And then like in chat right here, right. So someone said being slim and being healthy are two different things, incredibly different things. And being slim is a beauty standard that a lot of people have, but that is not the epitome of health. Right. And that's something that I think a lot of people will end up chasing to their detriment. Right.
Maybe the ham and cheese sandwich wasn't affecting me. I mean, it was, but who cares? But that was something that like stuck with me for so long. And like, even when I eat ham and cheese sandwiches now, I still think like, oh my God, like that was so bad. But I think, yeah, because I was very small compared to the other models, I think I definitely felt a pressure to be skinnier. I remember we had a nutritionist talk at our agency, at my old agency, and she came in and she was like, she gave us this list and it was like 20 models and it was this list of all these things that we were allowed to eat, all these things we weren't allowed to eat and things like that. And I was just looking at them and one of the other models literally looked at me and she went, "So does this mean we can't get McDonald's?" And I was like, "Babe, no." Do you know what I mean? But a lot of the models that I saw were like, some of them would be eating like literal green peas, just like, and I could never, I would rather have, I still to this day would rather have a little bit of weight on me than be super skinny and not eat because.
Well, yeah, and that's just healthier. Like, that's just healthier. And so I'm glad that you feel that way. That is what you would hope. That's what you would hope, 100%.
I love food. That is just that plain and simple. One really, really big kind of fad that's going on right now is Ozempic. And
okay, here we go, gamers. Let's do this.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I definitely tried it. I mean, a few months ago, I was not feeling happy with my weight. I had a friend and she could get it for me. And it was kind of below board, I'm not gonna lie. It was from a doctor, but it wasn't like you go into the doctor's office and he gives it to you, prescribes it to you, he takes your blood pressure and he takes all of these tests, which is what you need if you're going to go on something like
she got it from the streets, for real.
Ozempic. Because at the end of the day, it is a medication, it is dangerous. It's not really meant for weight loss of people that aren't, you know, of a very large size. Like, it's, as in when I was taking it, the amount that I was taking was actually meant for people who are 100 kilos and over. And
brother, that's crazy. So I would be surprised if it was actually Ozempic that she was taking. I'm assuming it is probably like a compounded version, or, you know, something that's a GLP-1 but not actual Ozempic. I could be wrong. Who knows exactly? But I'm assuming she's just using the word Ozempic as kind of a catch-all for all of these different medications, right?
I'm in the 50s range. So it's these small things that I wish I'd known before taking it. But anyway, I took it. My friend had got it for me. You inject it into your leg or you can inject it into other places, I think, but like the leg is probably best. And yeah, you can inject it into your stomach, but I injected it into my leg to like feel less sick. And when I tell you, it was the worst decision I ever made. So if this is a warning to anyone, please, if you're thinking about doing it, do not take it. Like, it's so not worth it. I would rather diet any day than take that again. It made me feel so nauseous. I took it for 2 weeks, and you get like a pen, and then it comes with different doses. And you take one injection 1 week, one injection the next week, and you take it like every week. And
so obviously that is not advisable. And I think that the reason that I think this is interesting is because the problem that I see with Ozempic is not the people that are of that size that should be that really could benefit, right? That are incredibly large, that really could be helped by these medications, helping them basically, I mean, there's a science that goes into it, but basically kind of curbing their appetite, making it so they're not as hungry. Maybe you're not thinking about food as much, right? There's the whole food noise thing. And so I'm not against Ozempic or GLP-1 medications, but with how popular it has become and how part of the kind of cultural zeitgeist it has become, things like this are happening, right? Where it's just like people that absolutely should not be taking it. And this is an extreme example. Like, obviously, this is like someone that is not at all overweight for the most part, right? I don't know exactly what she looked like before, but I am assuming not that overweight, that is taking an extreme dose. There are going to be complications, but like with anything, right? These medications, they have the side effects, and you have to be careful with it, right? And it's frustrating because things like this are the reason, and then people will use this as why they think all Ozempic shouldn't exist, right? These GLP-1 medications are all bad, which I don't think, right? So this only hurts, this hurts everybody, right, involved, I feel. And like that's why it's just so frustrating when I see things like this. And I'm no hate to Glaude, I think her name is, or anything like that. It is what it is. Like, I don't even blame her because it's become so normal that you hear it everywhere. You see it everywhere. You see it. This person talking about it. This person talking about it. This person lost a ton of weight. Oh my God, look at this person. Ozempic base. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's everywhere. It's just so normal that you're like, oh, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad for me to take, right? And then it leads to stuff like this.
I've never felt so sick in my life. I was throwing up. It was horrible. I took a lower dosage the first time I took it. Then I went up higher. And I ended up being in...
So you took a lower dose, felt terrible, and then took a higher dose.
Bed for like 2 days, I think, at one point, and felt so sick. My weight had dropped. I think like I started at about 60 kilos. And then I went down.
So 60 kilos is what? Is that like 130 pounds? Because I think it's 2.2 kilos per pound. Someone in chat, please help me with the math. So yeah, not very large, you know?
To about 57 with the first sort of dose. And then I went down to like 54. Like, it was crazy. I think my lowest was 53. And
132 pounds taking Ozempic dosage. That's meant for someone that's probably like close to 300 pounds.
In terms of like in a few weeks, that's not a healthy weight loss, and that's not a healthy drop.
No.
And
well, I mean, if you're, excreting things out of your body through your mouth, that's also that means anything that you did end up eating is no longer in your stomach. So I would assume a lot of that weight loss is also water weight, right? Just all of the fluids coming out of your body. So I would hope that once you are able to keep some stuff down, it's not going to be as extreme. But yeah, that's gnarly. That's definitely gnarly.
When I was in bed for those 2 days, and it was sort of the end of it, and I was just like wanting to come off of it, because it's not like you can stop taking it. It's like a pill or something that you just don't take when you wake up in the morning. Like, it's in your system and it's there. And I felt so sick one day. I'd said to my friend, like, I can't keep any water down. I can't keep any food down, like no liquids, nothing. I need to go to the hospital. Like, I feel really sick. I have a picture, and like my eyes were like almost like concaving in. Like, it was so dead. My face was dark, like dead. Like, there was no color in it. So we went to the ER at like 3 a.m. because it was like, I literally just, it was 3 a.m. I was like, I can't like even get water down. Like, this is so bad. So I went to the hospital. We're waiting in the ER. It's taking forever. We go and see one of the nurses and she's like, how much of a dose are you taking? And I was like, however much. And she said, oh my God, like that's so not what you're meant to be taking. She asked how much weight I dropped in the last 2 weeks. I told her. She was like, right, we need to get someone to come and get you. So she sent me to the emergency room. Dude. I got wheelchaired through the hospital. It was, my friend was there with me and she was just funny. It's so funny. Like I obviously was dying, but she was just funny. It's so funny. And she had to wheel me through. Like it was.
Your friend, huh? I don't know about that one. But hey, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
It's so funny. When I think back at it now, it was hilarious. And she'd also come back from a night out. So she'd been out on a night out and took me to the hospital when she was drunk, which love her. Like, honestly,
hopefully she didn't drive you there, but whatever.
She's going to come on the pod. She's one of my best friends. She's a blonde, such an amazing girl. But yeah, she was basically drunk, took me to the ER, and she was just sat there with me the entire time. And at one point I went to the bathroom, felt really sick, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And I said to her, like, I feel something's happening. Like, I don't feel good. We'll be waiting in the, for like the emergency room, like it's a different section. And then as soon as I get into the room where I get seen by another nurse, which is where they like basically do the bloods and everything like that, I literally had a seizure from how dehydrated I was. Yeah.
Dehydration is no joke. Like, seriously, that stuff is scary. And it is not something that you should play around with at all. Like, at all. And not something that a friend should think is funny, But again, hey, we're all different.
Honesty was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I've never, ever had seizures. I've never, ever had like any serious health problems in my life, really. And it just scared me so much. My friend Reese had to hold my feet down. And it was just so scary, like the whole situation. I didn't know what was going on. Like my face was clenching up. My whole body was like tense. Like I couldn't, my hands, it was so weird. I don't know if anyone's ever had a seizure before, but it was like your hands like clench up and you can't move them. And it feels like you're gonna like break your hand. It was honestly horrible.
Yeah,
and
sounds terrible.
I hope that like by me talking about this and kind of saying my experience with it, it can maybe be a lesson to some people that like it's so not worth it. And if it's for diabetes, it's not for weight loss really. And I get that in the press right now and
the thing is that I will say that I think that I hope that people that are watching this are people that are in the similar position that would want to do the things that she's doing, right? Because they want they want to be super insanely thin, right? And so, but it's just like, I think most people, probably people that are watching the stream, people that hopefully that watch the video, if anyone watches it, right? They're going to hear this and be like, that's ridiculous. Who would do that? There are people that will do it. That's the issue, right? There are plenty of young, most of the time women, girls, that will do anything to be thin. Anything. It does not matter. And then going back to what we were talking about with the unrealistic beauty standards, they want what is being popularized right now. And what is that? It's the heroin chic, as thin as possible, wearing the freaking jeans that are down by your crotchal region, right? Like showing everything, your hip bones. I remember the thigh gap was such a huge thing when I was younger. It's all coming back. And the way people did it back then was by just starving themselves. But now we have this medication that does absolutely help with losing weight, but there are so many side effects. And so, yes, most people watching this are like, that's ridiculous. Who would do that? She did. And I don't think she's like the stupidest person I've ever heard, right? Like there are certainly things she's done that I'm like, I would never do that. But again, she's younger than I am and we're different, right? And so like she is chasing something that for me, I'm like, I don't want that at all. I would never want to be super thin. I want to be freaking jacked. But like there are plenty of people that want to be that. And so that's important. And like, so it's easy to be like, no one would ever do that. But there are people that would. And that's important to remember.
Media, everyone, and all these celebrities are on it right now. And it's so hard to look at that and see these dramatic weight losses, especially for people with eating disorders and problems with eating. It's like, it's so hard to see that when maybe you're not someone who drops weight quickly or you're struggling with recovery and things like that. It's just so not what we need right now. This heroin chic trend right now coming back, which was something that happened in the 90s. Like, we should not be going back there. This should not be a trend right now. It's just, where did the body positivity go? Like, where did the body...
So, so the issue with that, in my opinion, I think what happened was I love talking about the pendulum. The pendulum was too far over here, right, with the heroin chic, but then it went way too far over here with the body positivity, and people were like, yo, obviously, like, I don't think I'm naturally supposed to be 400 pounds, right? And now it seems like instead of the pendulum, like, you would hope, like, okay, let's find the middle ground. It was like, well, we got to be tiny again, right? It's so frustrating. It's frustrating trying to be in the middle and be like, hey, that's too far, that's too far, let's find somewhere in the middle. But that doesn't get enough attention. People, they hear that and they're like, that's not fun enough.
Positivity go here? I don't understand, because we were doing so well. The curvy girls were eating, like, it was becoming like more of a trend to be curvier and to be like just like sexy. And then now it's just
and like muscular, right? Like the gym, and thankfully there still is definitely a big part of like the gym inspiration, getting women especially, right? But obviously men too, but like women especially in the gym, lifting weight, having muscle. That stuff is so helpful, man. It's so helpful having muscle. It's so helpful to keep weight off because you have more muscle. You're able to eat more food. You're like, oh man, there's so many benefits to adding muscle to your body, but we're not going to get into that.
Gone back in time to this like heroin chic, like not eating, like being super, super thin. And obviously if that's your body type and you are a person who is just naturally very thin, then obviously like this excludes you. But just be happy with your weight and be happy that you have a body that actually functions and actually works, instead of putting it through something like that. It can be so detrimental in the future for your body. You don't realize it now, but restricting foods and things like that can really be so detrimental in the future. And it can be harder to lose weight in the future for you if you do restrict those foods now. I think at the end of the day, it is going to be hard, and it's always going to be hard going on social media nowadays and seeing everyone looking perfect, looking flawless, looking airbrushed, looking a certain way with their body. But we just have to remember that everyone's bodies is different. And a lot of these people, it's not natural. And they have a lot of help and a big team behind them.
Yeah, and I don't know where we even go from here. Like, genuinely, I have no idea what because the can of worms has been opened, right? It's not like you can just like, oh, let's put them back in there. And Ozempic never existed, and GLP-1 medications never were the thing that they were. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I feel like right now, and I could be wrong about this, right? But I feel like right now we're kind of in like the wild, wild west of like these GLP-1 medications and how incredibly easy it is to get anywhere. Like, if you want it, you can get it, right? Unless obviously it's price. The price can be a little restrictive for a good amount of people. But if you have the means and you want it, you can get it somewhere. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where it becomes more regulated. And I necessarily don't think that that's a bad thing, because I feel like with where we're at now, man, it's definitely, I would only see it getting worse as it becomes more available, in my opinion.
I have gotten to a place with my weight now where I am happy. And I think maybe because I have a boyfriend, I'm going to mention it again, but I think by him loving me, it's made me love myself more in all areas. And so I'm really grateful for that. So
that seems to be the end of that kind of section of the video. And so I thought, I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously I shared how I feel about everything. And I mean, everyone's different, right? I think that I I appreciate her sharing her story. It was definitely a very scary one. Definitely. Hey, Ace, thanks for the sub. Definitely a very scary one.
Wait, I missed the video. Can you restart it?
Okay, I'll restart it. I got you. But like, I definitely appreciate her sharing that story. I do hope that it is something that people that would be in that position will hear and like rethink maybe doing that. Obviously, again, I understand that most people probably watching this video are going to be like, no one would ever do that. That's ridiculous. But the sad truth is that it does absolutely happen. But that's pretty much everything I have to say. I think I've rambled on quite a bit. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. Let me know what you thought about this type of video, especially on the second channel. I think I'm going to do a ton of different kinds of things. So if you have videos that you want to mention, come to the Twitch streams with all these people here and join us. And, you know, you can link video or post videos. Probably can't link them because that's not allowed on Twitch. But let us know, you know, what you want us to do. And I would appreciate it. But thank you so much. And I will see you guys later. Peace. Woo! We did it, gamers.